This old world of ours is full of trouble. This old world will also perish if we find more Bibles on the table and mothers singing rock of ages played for me. I can see us sitting around the table, waiting from the family Bible back. I can hear my mother softly sing, rock of ages, well for me. Rock of ages, fled for me.
Good evening. Welcome to Empty Cross Ministries Bible study, and we're going to be jumping into the book of Judges. And this just jumped right into it here. The book of Judges was written most likely by Samuel. It was probably written around or after 1050 BC. The purpose of this book is to show the consequences of disobedience to God and the importance of having godly leaders. The book of Judges is alarmingly relevant today. It records the Israelites' descent into sin and its terrible consequences. The 12 heroes of the book, both male and female, seem larger than life at times, but they were imperfect, just like us. Judges is a stern reminder that God punishes sin, but is always ready to take the repentant back into his heart. Judges takes place in ancient Canaan, the promised land given by God to the Jews. Under Joshua, the Jews conquered the land with God's help. But after Joshua's death, the lack of a strong central government led to infighting among the tribes and periodic oppression by the wicked people who lived there. The book of Judges is divided into two sections. From chapters 1 to 16, we will see an account of the wars of deliverance, starting with the Israelites beating the Canaanites and ending with the defeat of the Philistines and the death of Samson. An appendix appears from chapters 17 to 21. Originally, the book of Ruth was a part of this book, but in 450 AD, it was removed to stand alone. A couple of quotes before we get started from Judges chapter 2, verses 16 through 23, and I'm reading from the Holman Christian Standard Bible here. The Lord raised up judges who saved them from the power of their marauders, but they did not listen to their judges. Instead, they prostituted themselves with other gods, bowing down to them. They quickly turned away from the way of their fathers, who had walked in obedience to the Lord's commands. They did not do as their fathers did. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for the Israelites, the Lord was with him and saved the people from the power of their enemies while the judge was still alive. The Lord was moved to pity whenever they groaned because of those who were oppressing and afflicting them. Whenever the judge died, the Israelites would act even more corruptly than their fathers, going after other gods to worship and bow down to them. They did not turn from their evil practices or their obstinate ways. The Lord's anger burned against Israel. Excuse me. I'm just trying to get my voice back here. And he declared, because this nation has violated my covenant that I made with their fathers and disobeyed me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I did this to test Israel and to see whether they would keep the Lord's way by walking in it as their fathers did. The Lord left these nations and did not drive them out immediately. He did not hand them over to Joshua. As seen from the above verses, the downward spiral would continue into sin and with each downward spiral, the sins would escalate. The period of the Judges is an era in the history of Israel of deep moral and spiritual decline. The events in this book are not in chronological order, that is, not in the order in which they occurred. A repeated theme throughout this book is found in these two verses, Judges chapter 17, verse 6, and Judges 21:25. Listen carefully. Judges 17:6. This is from the New Living Translation. In those days, Israel had no king. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. And we jump up to Judges chapter 21, verse 25. Again from the New Living Translation. In those days, Israel had no king. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. Yes, this verse is repeated in chapter 17 and then in chapter 21 again. Anytime something is repeated in the Bible, it means it is important to take note of it. In those days, Israel had no king, and this focus on the second part of this verse. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. Folks, that is called moral relativism. God gives in His Word, all throughout the Bible, moral absolutes. As we can see from these two verses, several chapters apart, and they are identical, that this moral relativism is not a new issue. And we come to Judges chapter 1. First we see stalled conquest of Canaan, and then we see advance and retreat in the south, and advance and retreat in the north. This book opens as the previous book of Joshua opens, that is, with the death of the nation's leader. Here Joshua has died, but never named anyone that was to succeed him as leader of the nation. The judges ruled Israel from Joshua's death until the time of Samuel. The function of the judges was to be that of military deliverers. And this, go now and do some reading out of Judges chapter 1. I'm going to read verses 1 through 10. Now after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, Who shall be first to go up for us against the Canaanites to fight against them? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Indeed, I have delivered the land into his hand. So Judah said to Simeon his brother, Come up with me to my allotted territory, that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I will likewise go with you to your allotted territory. And Simeon went with him. Then Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hands, and they killed 10,000 men at Bezek. And they found Adoni-Bezek in Bezek, and fought against him, and they defeated the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Then Adoni-Bezek fled, and they pursued him, and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. And Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to gather scraps under my table, as I have done. So God has repaid me. Then they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. Now why would they cut off his thumbs and big toes? And why would Bezek cut off the thumbs and big toes of those that he captured? Well, it's because they can't fight anymore. If you cut off the thumb, they can't hold the bow, an arrow, they can't hold the spear to fight. If you cut off a big toe, they can't run. So that eliminates a combatant right there. That's what the people did in the Old Testament times with prisoners of war. They tortured them and they mutilated them to the point where they could not fight anymore. And apparently here it says they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. Apparently there he died of his wounds that he was that incurred after he was captured. Picking up here in verse 8. Now the children of Judah fought against Jerusalem and took it. They struck it with the edge of the sword and set the city on fire. And afterward the children of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites who dwelt in the mountains in the south and the lowland. Then Judah went against the Canaanites who dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of the Hebron was formerly Kirjath Arba, and they killed Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai. From there they went against the inhabitants of Debir. The name of Debir was formerly Kirjath Sepher. Okay, I want to stop here and make a few comments. Actually, no, I'm going to continue on, probably up through verse 20, through verse 21. Yeah, I changed my mind a lot. From there they went against the inhabitants of Debir. The name of Debir was formerly Kirjath Sepher. Then Caleb said, Whoever attacks Kirjath Sepher and takes it, to him I will give my daughter Akashah as wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it. So he gave him his daughter Akashah as wife. And now it happened, when she came to him, that she urged him to ask her father for a field. And she dismounted from her donkey, and Caleb said to her, What do you wish? So she said to him, Give me a blessing. Since you have given me land in the south, give me also springs of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. Now the children of the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went up from the city of palms with the children of Judah into the wilderness of Judah, which lies in the south near Arad. And they went and dwelt among the people. And Judah went with his brother Simeon, and they attacked the Canaanites who inhabited Zephath, and utterly destroyed it. So the name of the city was called Hormah. Also Judah took Gaza with its territory, Askelon with its territory, and Ekron with its territory. So the Lord was with Judah. And they drove out the mountaineers, but they could not drive out the inhabitants of the lowland, because they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moses had said. Then he expelled from there the 3 sons of Anak. But the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites who inhabited Jerusalem. So the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem to this day. This introductory passage of Judges shows continuing military activity, which indicates that all military conquest had not been completed during Joshua's day. It then explicitly details the incomplete conquest of several tribes. That Israel had disobeyed God's directions for conquest is evident, as we will see in the next chapter of verses 1 through 5, where the angel of the Lord makes such an accusation in sharp contrast to the peaceful and unified picture of Israel at the end of the book of Joshua. The breakdown of Israel's society is already evident. Judges begins with a record of conquest in southern Palestine. The tribe of Judah assumed leadership and allied with Simeon in campaigns against the Canaanites who had not been driven out of their respective territories. They fought a series of successful campaigns, going up against Bezek and Jerusalem, going down against Hebron, Debir, and Zephath, and concluding with an invasion of Philistine territory. They had mixed success with the Canaanites, but their successes outweighed their failures. And we jump back here to verse 1. Now after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that Judges begins as the book of Joshua does, with reference to the death of the previous leader. Moses in Joshua 1:1, Joshua here. Yet no new leader was commissioned to lead Israel after Joshua. Rather, the tribe of Judah was designated to lead in the fight against the Canaanites. The choice of Judah was the first hint that Jacob's prediction for Judah was coming to pass. And that prediction can be found in Genesis chapter 49, verses 8 through 12. The prophecy would come to fruition with the establishment of the monarchy under David and his descendants. David was from the tribe of Judah. History bound the tribes of Judah and Simeon together. They were both descended from the same mother, and Simeon had inherited land in Judah's territory. Theirs was a natural alliance. The Canaanites and the Perizzites. The site of the Battle of Bezek between Israelites and Canaanites is unknown. Many scholars believe that it took place near present-day Kirbat Beska, about 3 miles northeast of Gezer, southwest of Jerusalem. However, in 1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 8 through 11, mentions a town called Bezek, northeast of Shechem, in the territory of Manasseh, where Saul took a census of the people. Considering that Judah was leading a campaign on behalf of all Israel, a battle in Manasseh's territory is quite possible. Later, Judah spearheaded a campaign in its own territory. This Adonai Bezek, the name of this minor king, means Lord of Bezek. To cut off his thumbs and big toes would prevent Adonai Bezek from ever engaging in battle again. Since the thumb was needed to hold a sword and the big toes were necessary for running, the practice of mutilating vanquished enemies is recorded in ancient sources found in Mesopotamia and Greece, and it was practiced by Adonai Bezek himself. As a result of his wounds, however, Adonai Bezek died. After the battle at Bezek, Judah pressed the campaign against the Canaanites elsewhere, in Jerusalem and the mountains, the southland and the lowland. Jerusalem was captured and burned, but not settled. Verse 21 states that Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites from the city. For more on this differing account, you can look at Joshua chapter 15. The complete conquest and settlement of Jerusalem was not accomplished until David's day. The capture of Hebron and Debir appears as a new conquest, but these victories had already been recounted in Joshua 15. This passage probably is a reference to the earlier victory, or else the passage in Joshua is anticipating the victories to come. The account in verses 11 through 15 is taken almost verbatim from Joshua 15 through 19, and it is the third account of Caleb's inheritance. The other account is found in Joshua 14, verses 6 through 15. The name Hebron means confederacy. This name was formerly Kirjath Arba, literally city of four. Arba was also the name of a leader of the Anakim. From the names, it is conjectured that Hebron was originally a close-knit alliance of four cities. Hebron, about 20 miles southwest of Jerusalem, was where Abraham settled and built an altar. Genesis 13:18. They killed Shishai, Iman, and Talmi. Caleb drove these three men out of Hebron. Debir was the next city captured by the Israelites. Its former name, Kirjath Sepher, means city of the book. It may have been an administrative center where records were kept. However, the modern archaeological site, Talbiot Mirzim, has not yielded any great library or records. Nevertheless, archaeologists have uncovered a strongly fortified city, which was destroyed close to 1200 BC. And we come to verses 14 to 15 now. As a dowry, Caleb's daughter asked for springs of water in addition to the land he had given her. Land without fresh water was almost worthless, so her request was an astute one. References to the south, that is, the Negev, in verses 9 and 15, included mention of the descendants of the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law Jethro. This family connection had led to friendly relations between the Israelites and the Kenites, who were Midianites in the wilderness. Their harmonious settling with Judah fulfilled Moses' words of Numbers 10:29. So the city of palms is a reference to Jericho, nestled deep in the Jordan Valley, northeast of Jerusalem. Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron were the three of the major cities in the Philistine kingdom. The other two were Ashdod and Gath. Israel was not able to hold these cities for very long. By Samson's day, all three cities were in Philistine hands again. And we come to verse 19 now. They could not drive out the inhabitants of the lowland. Since the three Philistine cities mentioned in verse 18 were in the lowlands. This verse must mean that the Israelites had no success beyond these 3 cities, and perhaps even means that they lost control of them very quickly. Chariots of iron were effective on the flat coastal plains, but not in the hill country of Canaan. Thus the Israelites who did not have chariots were better matched against the mountaineers. And we come to verse 21. Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites. This verse duplicates Joshua 15:63 almost exactly, except that the tribe of Judah is held responsible for their not driving out the Jebusites from Jerusalem. Note also that in verse 8, the account states that Judah did not capture Jerusalem. And we can see in Joshua, that and also Joshua 15:63. And I'm going to stop it there and pick up next time. We're going to talk a little bit more about this land of Canaan and what it was all about. Keep this election in your prayers. Keep our nation in your prayers. Keep our nation's leaders and those who are running for offices of leadership in your prayers. And we're going to close out there with some music if I can get to it. Here we go.
I don't know where you may be in your story today. I don't know what secrets you may hold inside. But I want you folks here tonight to know, no matter where you may have been in your life or what you may have done, there's a Father in heaven waiting with open arms for you to come home to Him. Without guilt or pain, so oft abandoned by our transgressions. If such a thing as grace exists, then grace was made for lives like this. There are no strangers. There are no outcasts. There are no orphans of God. So many fall, but hallelujah, there are no orphans of God. Come ye unwanted and find affection. Come all ye weary, come and lay down your head. Come ye unworthy, you are my brother. If such a thing as grace exists, then grace was made for lives like this. There are no strangers. There are no outcasts. There are no orphans of God. So many fallen, but hallelujah, there are no orphans of God. Oh, blessed Father, look down upon us. We are your children. We need your love. We bow before your throne of mercy and seek your face.